Hello everyone. This is a video that I'll record a few steps along the way just to help give a little bit better guidance on how to replace a battery. Full disclosure, this is my first time going through it, so obviously did quite the best research I could, trying to find all the steps and needed tools. I obviously have access to majority of the tools needed. So, you know, this is a fairly in-depth procedure, but if you're mechanically inclined, it can be done, even though I know Tesla doesn't want you to do it. Few key things. So I have, this has 141,000 miles on it. The battery has a short in one of the modules and will no longer take a charge. So obviously it needs the battery pack replaced. I looked into potentially repairing the battery, but it doesn't seem like that's really doable at my level. So I went ahead and found a battery out of a wrecked vehicle with 65,000 miles off eBay. One of the key things to note though is because yes, you can swap different batteries from different years, but it potentially will require a firmware update. So I went ahead and I found one that had the exact same VIN number, location, year, so just to try to minimize that. So hopefully it's a plug and play. We'll find out here as we go through this. So to start the process, obviously you're gonna need access to the bottom of the vehicle. A 2-post lift would have been ideal. I have a set of these quick jacks, but unfortunately you can't hold the vehicle up on the quick jack while the battery comes out. So I opted to build these bases and then use some like oil change style ramps. I got them turned backwards so that it can't roll off one way or the other. It is stable. And then obviously I think I'm going to use the quick jacks to then also lower the battery down to some casters and then slide it out. So that's the plan. So far I've been started on the inside. So I still have power hooked up to the vehicle. Currently, I'm just about ready to unhook that, but just to show you a few things, order of operations. So there's plastic panel here on the edge. You get your plastic tool in here, pop it out. It's just got 3 clips. Then you'll pop out this top little panel right here. You get your tool up in here, pop the top out, and then it'll slide up and out. You can then also get rid of, if it'll focus, this interior lower A-pillar trim. It has one rivet up here, plastic rivet. You pop that out and then you should be able to pull it up and out. It's just in here held in place. Same thing on these interior kick panels. They actually just pop in place. So they got plastic rivets all around them. You just pop them out. And then I'm going to show you the driver's side, but there is one plastic panel right here. It's got a couple plastic rivets and one Torx screw. That'll give you access to the upper portion of the carpet. And then you don't have to remove the seats, but I found it probably is going to be easier just in not having to work around them and to get the carpet up out of there. So also a good time to clean. So what you have to do is you slide the seat all the way back. There's 2 bolts here in the front. They're a T45. Slide the seat all the way forward. I like to also fold it forward. And there's 2 more T45 bolts. So then all you got to do is unhook the wiring harness. So the wiring harness just comes right along this A-pillar trim. You can pop it out, and then it's just got one plug up in there to disconnect the actual power from it. The last thing you'll have to do is the seat belt. So it's got a special tool that fits in there. I was actually able to 3D print my own. The file is out there on Thingiverse. If you search under seat belt remover tool, I think it is. Or key, it slides up in there, and then you'll also have to take an Allen wrench. Once that's popped up in there, you'll hear it click. Take an Allen wrench or something, push that in, you'll hear it also click again, and then it should slide up and out. So that way then your seats can already be removed. If you look over here, you can see I do have the passenger side seat already removed, and that gives a lot of good access. I have the rear seat removed. Now that we got the seats out, one of the things is we got to start getting access to the bolts. Now, one of the things is I thought is this whole carpet is one piece, and it's also got like a big piece of solid foam attached to it on the bottom. It is attached underneath the center console here, so I thought I was going to be able to remove it, but I don't think that's going to be possible. Once you peel the carpet back, you will realize there is actually a piece of foam that's removable here that sets down in there like that, that you can actually remove two battery bolts that you need access to underneath the carpet. One other thing I forgot to mention is this is the passenger side, when you're pulling down that top panel, there is two wires attached. One is for interior light, and the other one I think is a speaker of some sort. Make sure, and same thing on the driver's side, there's also a connection port and a interior light. Don't forget to unplug those. And back on the driver's side, it's the same thing as the passenger side. It's got the same foam plug. This one was a little bit harder just with the pedals to get it pulled back. You can see some of the glue here between the solid block of foam and this carpet pulled back a little bit, but nonetheless, it gives you the same access to the two bolts. They are a external Torx Plus. It's a size 22 for the front ones. And then in the back bolt, there's a bolt right here. You can access it coming forward from the carpet, but since I have the seats out, you can see it if you lift it up far enough here. Right there it is. But an easier way to do this is there's actually, if you reach your hand in here, there's a small perforation in the seat carpet already, and ta-da, there's one of the bolts we need to access to. So I think that's the way we'll get to that one. And then the back seat bolts here, you can pull the carpet forward and you'll see more bolts right along there. So once we get ready to drop the battery out, we'll pull those bolts out as well. Okay, and just following up, you got all 8 bolts out of the interiors. Here's the front, the inverted Torx. Mine were a 22. I've seen some say that they were a 20. If you don't have a set of these inverted sockets, I think they get used several times throughout this battery swap here, so you will need those. I got the 16 millimeter bolts out of the back. There's one here, one over there, and then one under each of these little flaps. I had to basically use a utility knife to cut the little edge here a little bit, but you can see now that those are out. So everything on the interior side is almost done outside of unhooking the electrical. At this point, the battery is still powered up. I have 22%, but I cannot charge it. So one thing to remember, dude, is roll all your windows down quick, because once you disconnect power, you won't be able to close the doors properly without them. And then at this point, we're ready to move on to the rockers. What you're gonna do is remove this little plastic clip right here from this one spot. There's one on the back. You can kind of pull on the bottom a little bit. You're gonna pull it directly out from the vehicle. And then you can also get a plastic demolding tool here and go down here and push out, and you can see that it'll start to pop out. And next we're gonna drop this inner rocker panel piece. So it's got 2 rivets on each end up here by the inner fender side. You gotta take the remaining rivet out there. There is 2 bolts underneath. And then the rest is held on with these pop connectors that they were a little bit challenging to get off. Just use your plastic tool, get in there. One thing to keep in mind is you can see these outside ones as you look at it, but keep in mind every other one, there's also one up in here by the pinch weld. So you have to pull down on the inside as well as the outside to get them to start popping off. So now we're under the vehicle. We're going to remove this big front skid plate. It's just plastic. It's held up with a bunch of 10 millimeter bolts and a couple 16 millimeter nuts. Okay, and now we're ready to start unhooking all the electrical stuff. So I've disconnected the 12 volt battery under the hood. That's pretty straightforward. And then one of the things I wish I would have done before I got to this point was remove the rear seats. I started unhooking the electrical, then you get to remove the pyro fuse, which is below this Penthouse cover. And to do that, you have to pull the rear seats. Now I have this vehicle up on the stand, and I already have the power disconnected. So obviously I couldn't open a couple of the doors. I couldn't get the seats to power up. So I could have plugged everything back in. That would have been okay. I ended up just, since I had the front seats out, laying the front seat forward, putting the rear seat back. So that worked okay, but one of my advices would be is if it's on the ground while you still got power to it, go ahead and pull the whole rear seat brackets. I don't know if technically if you have to remove the pyro fuse, but certainly as this is my first time, it powers down the battery, all the connections, so that you just reduce the risk of any injury there. So certainly a good thing to do. So that's what we're going to do here. And this is where you need your special 5-point socket on all these bolts. And there's plugs underneath each of these seat brackets right here. So you have to make sure that you pull those, remove those off the frame before you pull them off. And then your 12-volt battery connection is over there. You can disconnect that. You'll disconnect the main battery communications cable. And then this one here, you'll leave loose. And then, so it moves, but it won't actually come off until the battery starts to drop down. So. And just a quick update here. So I have all these bolts loose using the special socket to get this off, but there is simply no way possible to get this up. It only comes up maybe 1/4 of an inch, and it's just not enough to get the entire cover lifted up to slide it over. So I don't, unless, you know, we start to drop the battery, then pull that, but I think we'll just proceed to the bottom half and go from there. So pulling all the seats out was kind of a little bit of work for nothing, other than it's a good time just to clean underneath the seats, and this one certainly needed it for sure. And when we go to put it back in, it will make making some of these connections just a little bit easier. So that's what we'll do. All right, hopefully you can all see this, but now we're under the front motor drive unit. We're looking back towards the battery. And so one of the mixed things we need to do, and you know, when I did this, I had the high voltage leather gloves on, but you got to disconnect the main power to the drive unit. So what you're going to do is there's a 10mm bolt right here that holds the harness on. Then you will slide this tab to the left here, and then this is a over center latch here. So this will be, so once this is slid to the left, you can push this open here. So sorry for the bad video work, but it'll open and then you can slide it off. We then will have to disconnect the ground from where it molts to the battery. And then the next thing to do that's a little bit challenging is you got your 2 AC compressors. These red tabs you'll pull down towards you. Now I had to get a screwdriver and kind of help get leverage on it to pull them down. And then right up in here you'll see there's an orange tab you can push in. You'll push in and pull down just like any electrical connector. The one thing you want to be careful is make sure you're not prying on too much, because these here are all coolant lines, and you know they can be brittle with time, and they're all plastic. So make sure you don't pry against them when you're trying to get these off. So just watch out. And one thing Tesla does, and I don't know if I mentioned it earlier in the video, but they give you all the instructions. So we just print them off and follow along. Not everything has been perfectly correct. A couple of the socket sizes have been different, and some of the procedures, but overall at least gives you a pretty good guideline of the steps to follow, and those are available on the website. Next, we're going to work on draining the coolant out of this. So to do this, I'm just going to undo this line right here. This is under the front passenger side, just in front of the battery here. That's the front wheel. I got this pulled back. This is the inner fender well, just with a bungee cord here. So there's a metal clip. I've already pulled it off, and it actually ended up popping out, but then we should be able to pop this apart, and I'm going to drain it in a bucket here. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, so I let this one drain for a while into just a bucket here, a clean bucket. I'm going to try to reuse as much as I can. And then what I did is right here in the front of the battery pack, I undid this line and then let that also drain. So the battery should be mostly drained as of now, at least to a satisfactory level there. So we're going to continue popping off these, the center ski plate and these front guard plates here. These are inverted Torx again here. So now up under the rear of the vehicle, we're going to take off these shear plates. These are just in the back corner of the battery near the tires. There's a 21mm bolt, 13mm bolt, and another 13mm bolt. And don't forget to just use your tool to pop out this little rivet that holds this coolant line, and then we should be able to slide those out. Oh, looks like there's another zip tie there, or another piece holding that coolant line down there, one of these. So pop that out, and same procedure on both sides. Okay, hopefully this shows up okay, but it's kind of tight quarters here underneath without the lift. But so there's two coolant lines on each side of the battery here in the rear that we'll undo and let drain. Those two are still draining. Over here on the driver's side, same thing. There's one coolant line right here, and one that goes up towards the top of the battery. And then, you know, in order to get access to all this, there's a metal skid plate that goes right here that's got like 4 or 5 bolts. You go ahead and pop those off, and then just now you can also see the actual, the main battery connections to the vehicle. So those are what we'll be doing next. I'm going to get my face mask, my gloves and everything on here, and we're going to work on undoing those main connections. And we'll give you a quick video of how I plan on lowering this battery down now that all the coolant lines and everything are drained. I got a set of quick jacks. I have 2x4s on top of them to support the load nice and level. And then we're just going to raise up until we are supporting the battery. Now, one challenge we will have to overcome with these quick lifts is obviously they don't go straight down. They go down a little bit out of an angle. So there may be several times when I have to bring it down, set it on blocks, bring it down, set it on blocks, just scoot the jack so that we can slide it out somewhat evenly there. So. Okay, so we finally got the battery lowered down. I'm using a set of quick jacks. These work pretty well. The only downside to them is as they go down, they also go back. So I had to kind of use a ratchet strap and, you know, after I lower it down a little bit, slide it forward, lower it down, slide it forward, lower it down until it was clear, and then I can just send it down. One thing to note is I don't have it all the way down, so I'm going to try to put some dollies underneath it there, and then let it down on the dollies. Get the jacks out of the way, and then hopefully I can just slide the battery out the side. One thing that I do want to note as you're letting it down, just make sure that all your coolant hoses, there's a couple coolant hoses on each side that are connected to the main frame and the drive units. Make sure those are disconnected and just kind of go slowly and make sure nothing's in the way. But everything went pretty smoothly there. And then one other thing I did here quick while it was still suspended up in the air, there's this main cable that goes down the whole way of the battery that connects the main battery to both the front and rear drive units. There's just, you pull the 4 center bolts out as part of unbolting the battery, but then there's 2 bolts, one on each end, that you have to take out, and that'll let this assembly come down. On the front side, you put a screwdriver in here, and you can see what it is on the back side. It's just a little tab that holds that in there. So, and there we have it. Finally feels good to have this out of there. Once I dropped it down on some dollies, moved the quick jacks out of the way, I was able to just easily wheel this out of there, so that worked really well. For reference, I can get a measurement on how high I had the vehicle. It's probably 18 to 22 inches up to the pinch weld area, and the battery slid out easily even on dollies, so no issues there. So now what you'll have to do, the battery I'm getting does not come with all the coolant lines. Typically you have to swap all these coolant lines over. I had already had the ones off the front here, off the front manifold. So I'll finish prepping this battery just to get it out of the way. I haven't decided exactly what I want to do with it yet. Obviously, it had good battery health. It was at 80% battery health. It just had one cell somewhere that's shorted in it. So I may try to sell it. I know a lot of people like to buy these, harvest the cells out of them, use them for their EV projects, whatever, as well as all the electronics in here. Now that the battery is out, you can see inside the Penthouse, it actually flips up once you have all the bolts out. So yeah, they say to disarm the pyro fuse, which is located right here. But that was never going to happen in the vehicle just because the vehicle, you can't tip it back. So interesting. I don't know if those instructions are out of date for a slightly different Model Y, but I thought everything was correct. So, but nonetheless, like I say, I'm going to pull that pyro fuse out just so that the battery is depowered from the external side so that we can safely handle it, move it around, ship it, whatever we need to do. Like I say, I'll probably put it on eBay. If not, I may tear it apart and see how serviceable they are. That was one idea I did have at the start of this, to see if, you know, could I buy a cell? There's lots of those cells available on eBay. Maybe I'll repair it and have it as a spare. That way, you know, future use, I will never have to worry about batteries again, hopefully. So we'll see. But thanks for tuning in. I will have a separate video for putting this one back together once we get it. I have a 4-post lift, so I'm going to use that to actually pick up the battery nice and evenly, since I don't have a overhead hoist or 2-post lift or so that can handle this kind of load. I think it's right around 1,000 pounds. The shipping weight on the new battery coming in was 1,060 pounds. So I think, you know, obviously there's probably 40, 50 pounds of packaging. So we'll say right around 1,000. But so yeah, so there you have it. If you like this, hopefully, I know video work wasn't the best. I wasn't really planning on making a video out of this, just kind of to help me and kind of learn along the way. And since I couldn't find much out there, it might help others, as there's probably a lot of Teslas getting to this point in their life when they're out of warranty and they're going to be faced with that tough challenge of, do I do this myself? Do I scrap the car? Do I part it out? What do you do? So we really like the car. It's in great shape. It's a blast to drive, but yeah, this is the worst case scenario of unplanned, zero notice battery failure. So, all right, take care. Thanks.